In this lesson, we will rig the tongue. What we'll do is first create a bone system, and then we'll make sure to control the rotation of that chain using custom parameters. And this is just one way we can approach rigging the tongue. Another way is perhaps using a GUI of some sort. And if you would like, you can always take a look at facial rigging in 3ds Max to learn other facial rigging techniques. So again, this is just one way. But before we get to that, let's finish this course. Let's go ahead and hide the character's face and the lower teeth so we can build our bone system without any of our geometry getting in the way. We don't necessarily have to hide these objects from our layer manager. We could always do so from the display tab. Let's find our hide rollout and we'll click on hide selected. Alright, let's do the same thing for the teeth and gums. We'll move over to our side view and let's grab our bone tools. Alright, so from here, just taking a look at the width and height, I think they'll work out well, but if we ever need to tweak them, we know that we can use a simple Max script to do that. So we'll create our root, and the next bone we add is going to be right where our edges intersect. So you can see this vertical line and you can see this horizontal line, and we'll create our bone object right at that point. We'll do the same thing for the others. Except for this last one, you can see it's very small. So what we'll do is just go ahead and skip over that and we'll create our nub object. Alright, great. So we have all of our bone objects in place. We can now go ahead and move over to our perspective view. And we'll have the root linked over to our lower jawbone. So we'll go ahead and select that root bone. We're going to grab our link tool and we will link. Now with that bone object still selected, let's go ahead and press Control Page down to grab the rest of the hierarchy, and we'll have it stored in the skeleton layer. With them still selected, we'll Alt right click and use Freeze Transform to go ahead and clean up the transforms on each object. Now let's grab our Rotate gizmo. We'll make sure we're in gimbal mode, and we'll make sure we're also rotating from the pivot of each bone object. Just to give an idea of the control we'll have, so we'll get some additive bending. We'll also tie in the sway axis, so that's the Y, and then our twist axis, the X. Let's go ahead and Alt right click and use Transform to 0 to bring this system back. Alright, great. So it's now time to go ahead and rename these objects. We'll name them alphabetically, so the root will be named BN Tongue A01. So we'll just go ahead and copy that. Let's go ahead and use that to rename the others. Remember, when we get to the nub, we'll have a prefix of BE. So once all of our objects have been renamed, it's time to skin the tongue mesh. Let's go ahead and select it, head over to our Modify panel, and we'll find our skin modifier. There it is. So let's go ahead and add those objects. We'll type in BN underscore. Really like using the find feature. Go ahead and scroll down, and we should find those objects at the end of this list. It's great that everything is in alphabetical order. So let's go ahead and grab tongue A, and we'll shift select tongue D, so we can grab everything in between, and we'll now go ahead and click on select. Let's go ahead and take a look if we have to paint any weights. We may not need to. Let's go ahead and start to move tongue B around. That looks good. How about tongue C? Alright, great. And then tongue D. And of course, when we move the root, the entire tongue will follow. Alright, so this looks good. That will save us some time. So it's now time to set up our custom parameters. Let's go ahead and grab our lower jaw. I'll go ahead and Alt right click and add an attribute holder. We'll now right click and choose rename, and rename this to extra controls. Let's press Alt 1 to grab our parameter editor. The first one will be named tongue bend. So we'll tie the z-axis of each bone into this parameter. For the range, we could always use about -360 to +360. We may not ever take it this far, but at least we have enough room. We'll now go ahead and click on Add. So there's the first one. We'll create two more, tongue sway and tongue twist. Let's go ahead and work on tongue sway. There it is. Go ahead and click on add, and then just one more, tongue twist. Sweet. Alright, so once we have all of our parameters, it's now time to wire our parameters. I'll go ahead and set up the first one, tongue bend. And remember, with tongue sway, we'll tie in the y-axis, and tongue twist, the x-axis. The only bone that will not tie in will be the nub object, of course. So let's go ahead and get to it. With tongue A selected, you could always select that object. We don't necessarily have to always select the driving object first. I'll go to now right-click and choose Wire Parameters. That's going to be Transform, Rotation, Zero Euler, Z. And we'll now go ahead and click on our lower jaw control. That's going to be Modified Object, Extra Controls, Custom Attributes, Tongue Bend. Alright, so now what we need to use is the center arrow to make sure this gets connected properly. Let's go ahead and also work with degrees to radians. So that's deg to rad, and we'll concatenate tongue bend. So just wrap that in parentheses. We could always go ahead and just copy this, since we'll be using the same expression again. Let's go ahead and choose connect. Alright. So if we were to minimize our parameter wiring dialog, and go ahead and grab the lower jaw control, you'll see that we're now driving that bone object. So when we go back to that dialog, we can go ahead and load in the next bone object. I'll go ahead and select tongue B. There we go. And we'll choose refresh. And we'll go ahead and search for its rotation Z. There it is. So now go ahead and use the center arrow. We'll go ahead and paste our expression and choose connect. We should start seeing an additive rotation. Let's go ahead and finish the others first. If you would like, you can go ahead and expand the outside of this bone object to get to the next object in its hierarchy. So that's just another way we can go ahead and access tongue C. We'll expand the inside to get to transform, rotation, zero Euler. There's the Z-axis. We use the center arrow, we use our expression, and connect. We just have one more. So again, we'll go ahead and expand the outside of that bone to get to tongue D. And we'll go ahead and find its rotate Z axis. So I might expand the window a bit more. There we go. There's zero Euler. Let's scroll down, and there's the Z axis. Sweet. So let's go ahead and paste our expression in, use the center arrow, connect, and test this out. I'll go to minimize the parameter wiring dialog. We'll go ahead and grab our lower jaw control and start to use the tongue bend, and there is that additive rotation. Sweet. Alright, so let's go ahead and finish up by taking care of the sway and twist. I'll leave that up to you. And in the next lesson, we're basically ready to work on our last topic, which is setting up facial shapes and then a control system to drive those targets.